My name is Robert Chiwairo. I come from Rwanda, a country that is known as a thousand hills country because of like many hills. It's also a country that is known of its tragedy, the genocide against the Tutsi. It happened 24 years ago. Actually, this April we're commemorating what happened exactly, and it's one of the most tragedy or one of the most worst genocide of the 21st century. So basically, yeah, that's the country that I come from. It's complex. It's kind of very hard to talk about the genocide in Rwanda because we all know genocide have happened. There is a Holocaust, Armenia, but when it comes on Rwanda, it's quite different because in the Holocaust, the Nazis were killing Jews, and what makes Rwanda different is because in Rwanda, a parent killed kids, killed his children or her children, or husband killing the wife. So it is more complex, and it's very hard. It was the, and plus it happened so quick, very quickly, within 100 days. Within only 100 days, that's 3 months. Over 1 million people, Tutsis, were killed. So it's quite hard to explain it, to understand it, but it comes back in the history. To be brief, Rwanda, before colonization, as we all know, it's a landlocked country in Africa, in the East African region. But when the white people came during colonization, they found Rwanda with culture, one language, there are no tribes. And it was kind of very hard to decolonize them. So the only way was to divide them. They used the social classes, and they had to turn social classes into ethnicity, and they successfully did it. And after that, they tried to tell one social class that they have made an ethnic group, told them that, you know what, these people called Tutsis, they have been ruling the country alone. They have been forcing you to labor. They have been doing this and this. But in general, it wasn't the truth. It wasn't the truth because Tutsis were supposed to be leaders. They were supposed to be in political system. They had to cows, and that was like first social class. And the second was the Hutus, who were supposed to be owning land and doing cultivation. And there's also a group called Twat. It was also a social class. These people were living in their forest, and their role mostly was to make a good wine, if I can call it in that way, for the king. And the reason why it was a social class is because at some point someone would come from Tutsi and become a Hutu depending on what they own. If a king tells you, hey, you have committed a crime, so from now on we are taking all of your cows. From now on you're no longer holding cows, you no longer have cows. That makes you to become a Hutu, because after that, if you don't have cows, then you have land, and then you continue cultivating, so you easily become a Hutu. So it was more of a social class. But when white people came, the Germans, when they came during colonization, they changed that into ethnic groups. So this makes it complex, because after that, the Hutus revolted in 1959, and they had to throw out Tutsis. So Tutsis left the country and became refugees in neighboring countries of Rwanda. So since then, they have never had a chance to come back. So all of these years from 1959 leading to 1994, those we all know genocide, how it happened. There's what we call classification types. I don't know if I can call it types. It's like stages. Yes, let me use the right word. Stages of the genocide. So there is classification of people. Dehumanization, when you start calling people snakes, cockroaches. So you're dehumanizing them to make the other group think they're not humans. So, and then there is dividing, when you I think there are 8 or 9. But during all these years, these seeds were used against Tutsi. They were called cockroaches, they were called snakes. So to make the group of Hutus think Tutsis are not human beings, so they can easily manipulate them. So once there is a chance to kill them, you can easily kill because you don't think someone is a human being, you think someone is a cockroach. So killing a cockroach is very easy, and that's what happened in Rwanda. And in 1994, of course, it happened. It happened. People were killed house to house. I married a Hutu and a Matutsi during 1994 genocide. I've killed my wife because she's just a Tutsi, and or killed if I'm a Hutu and I've had kids with a Tutsi lady. I've killed my children because I believe they don't have the blood of me and Hutu blood. So having a wife with a Tutsi, it was very easy to kill the children because you think they carry blood from the other tribe, which I can call, if I can call it that way. So the genocide in Rwanda, it was kind of very hard to understand. Even though we were children, we were kids. I was born in Uganda, where my parents were just still refugees. But when I came to Rwanda, I visited memorials as a children, and I had stories. Had neighbors who were survivors. I also lost my auntie, so I had all the stories and get to learn what really happened in Rwanda. It was a tragic and the most worst atrocity, if I can call it that way, of the 21st century. Young kids, many young people in Rwanda, some have never seen genocide, but because they read, they know neighbors, they have watched documentary, they have seen a lot. It's still in their mind, it affects them. To be brief, it's peace building, early education, and fighting the genocide ideology. That's what I think can prevent genocide to happen again anywhere in the world. I did a test with you that says, yes, I killed them, but I killed them because I didn't think they were human beings. I thought they are snakes or cockroaches. I killed them because they don't look like me. I killed them because of this. That's an ideology that is in their blood, in their mind, that's what they think on a daily basis. We are on the last stage of genocide where people who committed genocide, and most of them are abroad, they're in Europe, they're in the US, and whatever they are doing is to make sure they deny what they did. And they use all means. They use internet, they use social media platforms, they use mainstream media, different mainstream media, to deny what they did, to deny what they did, or to call it other names. They say it was a war, it wasn't a genocide, it was a civil war, it was this and this. And when you call those kind of names, you have reached a point where you can deny what you did, and you have reached a point to try your best to not call it genocide, because when you call it genocide, you feel guilty of what you did. So you try your best to make sure that it's not a genocide, it's a war, we were fighting with people and everything. So one of the best ways to also prevent genocide to happen again is to fight with all means the genocide ideology, and to bring the people who commit genocide to justice, because the survivors also need justice, and people in general need justice, to see people who commit genocide being brought to justice. And I think genocide affects every corner, every aspect of a life, of a country, and its people. Genocide to happen doesn't come in an instant. It's a preparation. You don't wake up in the morning and start killing people. No, that's not how it happens. It's a preparation. There are stages. There is a process. There is a process. For example, like today's society, there is something I call stereotypes. Stereotypes. For example, when I hear people say Americans are arrogant, that's a stereotype, and this stereotype can grow into hatred. When people start thinking, oh, Americans are arrogant, they invade any country they want, they invade any country they want because they have superpower and stuff. It's a stereotype which is not true, because other countries also invade other countries, and arrogance is supposed to be personal, not a whole country that is arrogant. So that stereotype can become a hatred. So once someone grew up thinking America is arrogant, and then you start having hatred against them, and if that hatred continues, at some point you realize you start have this too much hatred that you find American, and you feel like I don't want to talk to them, I don't want to do this because they are this and this and this. So that's one thing. The second is ignorance. Ignorance, when you look at what's going on across the globe, there is lack of education on different aspects. For example, if someone hears Rohingya Muslims are being killed in Myanmar, you read it on the internet, you see it in the news, and you're like, oh, it doesn't concern me, it doesn't concern me. But the more it doesn't concern people, the more people get killed. And at some point you realize after like 1 year, 2 years, you go back on internet, you read a different story that doesn't talk about people being killed, this time it talks about people being wiped out. So that's another thing. When you ignore things that surrounds you, it leads to when you ignore things that surrounds you, it makes you a person who doesn't care, someone who doesn't give a damn what's going on. And that's what actually happened in Rwanda. When people started being killed, the UN was watching, people were watching the news in Europe, in America, in different African countries. People were watching, but they didn't care. They didn't have that courage to say, hey, you know what, stop this, you're killing people. So the more they stayed silent, the more people got killed. So I think ignorance is also among the factors that is leading to conflicts and genocide and wars across the globe. Third is lack of early education. When you don't teach children in preschool, elementary school, that you have to love your neighbor, you have to love your relatives, you have to love human beings in general, regardless of how they look or how they speak or what they do. The lack of that basic education to children makes it very hard when they grow up to tell them, hey, don't hate that person because he looks like that. So education of today, it doesn't have that room of teaching people the love. You teach them science, you teach them physics, you teach them chemistry, you teach them communication and biology. But when you teach them biology and communication and physics and chemistry, but you don't teach them love, that's when someone makes a bomb and kill people. That's how someone makes a weapon and can kill people using different things, because he was educated, but he was never, or she was never educated about the love of people, the love of human being, the love of humankind, the love of the world, the love in general. I think the only way to avoid genocide from happening, I think it's the right thing, is peace building among communities, peace building among children, peace building among relatives and neighbors, just in general, peace building. When you teach people how they can live peacefully, and you teach them at early age, it's very helpful. It's very helpful because when I have learned how to make peace with someone, there's no way someone can tell me, hey, Anna, you don't look like this, you should be killed. There's no one that's going to tell me that, because I know I can live with Anna, and I know I can live with Jessica, I know I can live with Eric, peaceful. So I think peace building is the most best way to avoid genocide to happen in the coming years. And second is to fight genocide ideology, because I talked about stages of genocide. The last stage is the ideology, because people who commit genocide, who kill people during genocide, after they kill them, they reach a stage where they have to deny what they did. As a human being, what makes me happy, actually, it's seeing the world or the people in general happy and succeeding and doing whatever they want to do in their lives. When I see a friend of mine or family or relative, neighbor, well-being, like doing whatever they want, enjoying their life, and they're happy, their family, they're happy, that makes me happy. That brings happiness in me, and it shows me that at least there is something good going on in someone's life, and that brings happiness in me, in my life.
Where do you come from?
I normally don't see myself as just a Rwandan because of the history of my country. People people have been refugees, including my parents. So it made me see myself as a global citizen. Every time someone asks me, where do you come from? Actually, I don't even like the question, but at some point, it's good because I think I see myself as a global citizen. I can come from the US. I can come from Canada. I can come from South Africa, Ghana, Uganda, Tanzania. It doesn't matter where people come from. What matters is who are they? Are they, as long as someone is a human being, as long as someone, is has something to do with what you do. If you look alike, I think people should see themselves as citizens of the globe. That's what I think.